Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for being patient here. Those of you that were on at 10 o'clock this morning, that's the time we were supposed to be kicking off, and now that everybody's here, we'll get moving. So, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to patent books. Hopefully, patent books is not a new concept to you, but I will explain it to you as efficiently as possible here, because in fact we are at a unique point in human history where it's time for a fundamental change in the way we think about intellectual property. And I say a change because for the last probably 100 years or so, we've gotten into this notion that a patent is a right to exclude. And in fact, it is a right to include. It's an ownership right. And if we do these things right, the fact that a patent is a public disclosure of an invention should enable human progress, and in fact it does. But we've got to have a better compensation model. I apologize in advance too. My throat's a bit hoarse. I was up in the mountains for the last couple of days, so I lost my voice. And those of you that know me, that's many times considered a blessing, but neither here nor there. The point is, we want to think about patents as enabling human growth, not as a hindrance to it. Okay, think about this. In the history of um, mankind, humans always copy one another. Okay, and just from a brief perspective, think about the United States. The United States was formed in 1776, and back then we were farmers and hunters. We didn't have an economy that was really noticeable on the world stage at all. We were just happy to be left alone by the British. But yet, we needed to improve ourselves, so we ended up copying most of the things that we had experienced in our previous lives. And, primarily those ideas and inventions came from Europe. So we copied all the European stuff. And in fact, we grew and advanced, and we, invented things on our own as well. But by the time World War I rolled around, call it 1917, we were a world player, because were it not for the United States entering in World War I, the outcome could have been radically different. But when the United States did enter World War I, it turned the tide in the favor of the Allies, and thus after that, the United States was considered a world power. Fast forward to the end of World War II. The end of World War II, Germany and Japan were almost wiped off the earth. However, because we helped them by teaching them how to rebuild their economies and their factories and all that, by the time 1995 rolled around, they both of those countries were world-class players as well. So that cycle of economic development that took roughly 150 years for the United States to accomplish was accomplished in 50 years post World War II. Well, Korea is not far from Japan, obviously, and they saw the success that the Japanese had and said, South Korea, we folks said, yeah, let's try to do that ourselves. And if you remember back in 1970, the products and services coming out of South Korea were not particularly high quality. However, by the year 2000, they were world class. And again, they copied things from Japan, Germany, and the rest of the world. Taiwan did the same thing in 1980 to 2005. Taiwan went from being a nothing to a significant player. And again, the People's Republic has done that in 15 years. The fact is, humans always do not like to be poor. And they will do anything possible to learn from somebody else and how they succeed. And that's just the way humans are. And that's a good thing. Now, what we need to do is enable that and enable a compensation mechanism for that. Because what we have right now is when people try to copy technologies. This was a slide that I picked up off the internet, illustrating the um, wars, literally wars in cell phones. Look everybody's suing everybody else. The fact of the matter is, it's a train wreck, and we can't afford to do this kind of stuff. So let's just get rid of this. Get rid of this litigation, because these are simple property transactions. We live at a unique point in human history where we have a number of things converging. We've got this thing called the internet. The internet allows people to communicate with one another very quickly and efficiently. We have models of compensation for intellectual property, such as iTunes. Music, when I was growing up, if you wanted a song, you either listened to it on the radio, which was a one-off deal, or if you wanted to have it in your possession, you bought vinyl. Now that has accelerated to tapes and then to CDs, and then it was recognized that you had digital downloads. And if you recall, just not too long ago, we had a situation where the record companies said the world's ending here because we have this company called Napster, where it's just free music. And Steve Jobs wisely said, most people are honest if you give them a chance to be honest. And he says, what if I charge everybody $1 a song in iTunes? And he did. Overnight, he had $1 billion business. I believe in my travels around the world that most people are honest as well. And given an opportunity to make a licensing transaction easy, priced fairly, and everybody pays the same thing, we can have the same kind of situation. And that's what we have in a patent book. We have an economic factor and a force that is also unbelievably powerful. In the West, we are renowned for inventing things, and we get a little resentful of other people copying our things, so we run to court and say, oh, my patent's being infringed. The fact of the matter is, we need to be compensated for the use of our other people's use of our intellectual property, and we need to get that done efficiently, because those are true asset classes. And so, and then there's this other realization of open innovation that, everybody in my environment does not come up with all the ideas we need. In fact, you look around, other competitors in there in any given space often provide useful information that would be good in my products. And in fact, if you open up any commercially significant high-tech product today, it doesn't have to be high-tech even for that matter, but you'll find thousands, hundreds of thousands, of patents in there that many different people use. We have to get paid for that. And then, of course, the social phenomenon that again is occurring within our lifetime right now. I mean, we've entered the economy of sharing. In fact, the 2014 Inc. Company of the Year was Airbnb, because people share their homes. Uber, Lyft, you share your cars and rides. The big data that we have available to us and allow us to see things that we never saw before. These are all things that are forces that we cannot stop. We will not stop. And when you vector all these things together, it's screaming for a solution. And we believe the patent book is the solution to this. Now, people say, well, gosh, this sounds a patent book. If you put all these patents together, you charge a single price to license them. Sounds like a good idea, but has anybody ever done it before? Well, in fact, they have. Okay? Think about electricity. When we plug our device into the wall, we have no idea where that electricity comes from. We're on a grid somewhere. And, there might be a coal-fired plant, as there are in Colorado, but there's also many solar farms, and there are also wind turbines out here, okay? But the electricity that comes out of my wall, I have no idea where it came from. It's combined somewhere. There's a meter on my house, and I pay somebody for what I use, okay? And then that entity, whoever I pay, figures out who to pay downstream or upstream from there. The same's true with water. Got a meter again, but I don't know where my water comes from. I don't think any of us do. And even in computing, how many times we go to computing now? Most of our things are in the cloud. Okay, I don't actually know where those computers are. I don't know what their whose processors they are, whose hard drives they are, how many gigaflops the processing power is. But I don't really care. I just pay for what I use. And yet, in patents, it's happened before. And this was an amazing discovery that I made right before I was speaking in Kuala Lumpur last year. This patent book idea is actually not even patentable because the patent book idea was called the sewing machine combination in 1856. Google this, look this up. The sewing machine combination. There were patent wars like crazy. They weren't called patent wars back then, but they were patent wars. And there were guys out there called they weren't called patent trolls, but if they were existed today, they would be called patent trolls. But Singer had it was trying to sell sewing machines, and he was stuck in court because there was a guy that had the two patents on straight needle sewing, had the little bobbin mechanism underneath the sewing machine there, and he never made a sewing machine, but he knew how to. But he solved the problem of breaking needles in curved needle sewing machines. So straight needle sewing machines is what made sewing machines successful. But he, of course, sued people, and everybody's stuck in court. The end game on this was there were lots and lots of litigations going on. People combined their patents at the request of a guy in Boston who said, what if we put them all together? So there were 900 patents that were combined in the sewing machine combination. The labor and materials cost for making a sewing machine at the Singer factory was $24. The sewing machine combination was $15 per machine, $24 per machine on labor and materials, for a net cost of $39. And Singer, once he got out of court via the sewing machine combination, was able to go back to selling sewing machines. And he was selling sewing machines for $125 a piece. So he's making good margin. He's making good money, but because he's out of court finally. And all those patent owners got paid. And in fact, we're a little bit more sophisticated now in our patent books model, but the top two patents that enabled the straight needle sewing machine, those guys got 5 of those $15. And like I said, everybody died wealthy. And then again, it just says patent books is the solution now. Think about this. Now, those of you that know me know I enjoy a good beer once in a while. This glass, half full or half empty? I'd say I like to take a look at it as a half full glass because frankly I like the contents of the glass. However, having said that, a patent is the same kind of thing. Is it a right to exclude? In other words, is the glass half empty? Or is it a right to include? Or is it the glass half full? I submit to you that it's both. It is both a right to exclude and a right to include. And I submit to you that the man who views the patent as a right to include versus a right to exclude will actually be wealthier. Think back on what on this previous slide. Okay, if think about this. Suppose I'm in my house here, and I've got solar panels on my roof, and I do. I have solar panels. And if I go over to a factory here, Hewlett Packard's down the road here, Okay, if I go to HP and knock on their door and say, "Excuse me, Mr. HP, but plant manager at HP," I said, I I saw my meter run backwards today because it was a sunny day, and I know you use some of my electricity. Well, the guy would laugh me out of there. But in fact, that's exactly what we do in patent land. Okay, you're using my patent, and so you got to pay me, and I'm going to shut you down. Well, that's crazy. Okay, thing is, we've got a simple model. Okay, a patent book is a very simple model. All you do is you put all the patents together that might be used in a commercially significant product. You pay one price, you license all those patents, and then we distribute the money according to the quality of the patents. Now, this is key right here. If you take a look at the quality spectrum of everybody's patent portfolio, I don't care what company you're in, what technology you're in, if you're in energy, you're in healthcare, you're in high tech, doesn't matter. Okay. In Teus's experience, our personal experience, we've evaluated millions of patents owned by thousands of companies and individuals. And if you take a look at the spectrum of patent quality, it's identical. Company to company, product by product, group by group, everywhere you look. That top sliver of patents is the most valuable. Those are the ones that end up in litigation most of the time. But we're just, let's keep it clean. Tier 1, 2%, those guys get half the money. Second tier patents. These are ones that you can use in a licensing negotiation quite successfully when they're combined with the tier 1s. But those ones aren't as valuable there, so you've got a broader denominator. You've got that spread over a larger volume of patents, and they're not worth as much, but they're worth some and good money. So that's 35% of the income we give to the tier 2 patents. But the vast majority of patents in anybody's patent portfolio are not commercially significant at any point in time. Okay? That may be because their time has passed and the patent is still valid, or in most cases, patents are new. Nobody has adopted that technology in their product yet. And we've seen this time and time again. And if those patents aren't receiving any compensation, then the owner is inclined to say, why am I keeping this patent on my books? Okay, it's costing me money. We said, let's give those patents some money. And in fact, when you distribute 15% of the income over that 85% base, the beauty of the model there is that those companies can get paid money that will at least cover their maintenance fees, because patents, and Ron, I see you're on here, and Uzi, and Ian, and so forth. Great to have you guys on here and to listen about this stuff. But you guys know that those patents just haven't been adopted by the product by the industry yet. They will, or they may, and when they do, they still want to be active. In fact, we saw a real tragic story with one of our clients, a high tech client that had patents on car batteries, and in fact, they weren't in the car battery manufacturing business anymore, and they didn't have anybody inside their shop that knew anything about car batteries. So sadly, they had let the patents lapse. But the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. So they'd asked us to come in and take a look at these patents. And we found these patents were being used by everybody. And we teed up a whole big licensing campaign for them and said they can make a ton of money. And it wasn't until after they finally connected internal resources there, they figured out the patents were expired. But these guys ended up with that single mistake because there was no income stream from those patents, and they were into their more expensive renewal years. They let them expire, and they ended up leaving literally hundreds of millions of dollars that had gone to waste there. So the fact of the matter is this: we live in a world that's got way, way, way too much violence. And we, in our world, can bring some peace by eliminating the economic violence that is indeed patent litigation. Because the fact is, if we just take a look at patents as assets and that can be traded with fair value, then we can reach the we can eliminate that source of violence, that economic violence that exists in our society today. Because the truth of the matter is, we all use everybody else's stuff, and some patents are better than others. And when we're talking about better than others, then we have to compensate them accordingly. Like I said, back on that compensation model, those people should, those patents, the more valuable patents, should get more money, and there should be a uniform standard for things. So, in fact, we in the West need to establish a system by which everybody can play along. And if we all know that any commercially significant product or service uses thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of patents, then let's make it easy. My Chinese friends, and Ron, you know this, Uzi, you do too, that they've said their patent licensing transactions are painful, because when they pay somebody, then they have another 200-300 companies lined up at their door. They said to me, Art, if you can make a transaction model that's simple, and again, these three things: it's simple, reasonably priced, and everybody has to pay the same thing, then we're in. And when I first presented a patent book concept for LCDs at the LES meeting in November 2011, I had a guy from Hong Kong come up and nearly tackle me, um, uh, because he said, "Hey, look," his name is Al Kwok. Al said to me, he says, I represent a group of LED light manufacturers, and he says, we know we've copied everybody else's stuff. We're willing to pay for it. We just need a model. And I've seen that again and again and again. Okay? This is how you do it. And we've got to start this. And I will tell you, I've been frustrated these last few years because I've been talking to our historical customers. Our historical customers are the big companies, the global 100. And in fact, 93 of the global 100 are TAEUS clients. And we've established a reputation with them of this TAEUS Works patent evaluation criteria. Okay? Because we've evaluated their portfolios, identified the good patents in there, and helped them make a lot of money. But these big companies, once they started making money from their patents, everybody else says, well, I've got patents too, and I want to start making money from mine. And so the big companies have been characterized these days as efficient infringers. And guess what? They are. They're extremely efficient infringers. And that's not fair. And in fact, so they decide to go on the offense and create this term called the troll, patent troll. Okay, and that's a derogatory, negative comment about some guy just wants to get paid for other people's using his patent. And you know what? There's no reason for that kind of stuff. But here's the thing: any big company can stiff arm and exhaust the resources of an individual inventor, or a small company for that matter. Or that small company may, enlist the help of a contingency fee law firm or something and tee them up in court. And you've got these PIPCOs out there, the public investment patent enforcement companies. Give me a break. Come on. There's an easier way to do it. Think about the Arab Spring that occurred in Egypt and Morocco and those places in the Middle East, where people just got tired of the dictatorships and they decided we're going to take this on ourselves. We, as individual patent owners, can band together, and while an efficient infringer could stiff arm one company, and they've got all the tools in place now to do so, they've got the PTABs and the IPRs and all the inter partes review, all this stuff. They've got all the cards stacked in their in favor. We need to band together and not beat up on the big guys, but give them a more efficient model by which they can license these patents. All you have to do is go to patentbooksinc.com. Tell us who you are and what patents you have. That's all you need. You just tell us that. And then you're in a patent book. It's that simple. It's completely free. Okay? And there's no encumbrances on your patents. None at all. Okay? Because we haven't done any transactions. We will only do transactions when we have a critical mass. In other words, when we have enough volume of patents to show up on the doorstep of a big company, an Apple, a Google, a Qualcomm, or whoever, an IBM, and say, Microsoft, and say, look, we've got 10,000 patents here, and they're owned by hundreds of different companies, maybe even thousands of different entities, little guys, universities, research facilities, individual inventors in their garage, small and medium-sized enterprises, but big companies too. And we say, look, here's this bundle. Here's a single price. You pay for each of your unit and metrics, whether it's an LCD, it's a serial number, it's a square inch of the display that's going out. Whether it's a online restaurant ordering, where it's like a credit card transaction. It's the dollar volume of sales. Okay, this is what you pay, and you're licensed to all these patents. Then we take the money, distribute it to the patent owner, but the licensee, the subscriber, doesn't care. Okay, the beauty is you can pull your patents out at any time. You don't have any encumbrances on them because you'll never have any encumbrances on them. You will just have people paying you licenses and license fees when somebody actually subscribes to the patent book. It's not an encumbrance because you can take them out anytime. But the beauty of this model is you've got every single patent in your portfolio that you've published, every single one of them receives income. And now you can start publishing that. That can affect your stock price, and that's a big thing. There's also what we've done is once your patents are in there, and I mind you, going back here, you put your patents in here, they're in tier 3 because everybody's in tier 3. You haven't given us any reason to tell us why it should be in a higher tier. And we say, all right, there is a free uniform evaluation standard. That's called TeusWorks. TeusWorks is go to patentbooksinc.com and we're going to change this link, but there's 2 links to it to get you to that to the TeusWorks evaluation criteria. So watch that page here. By this afternoon, it'll be squared away. But the TeusWorks evaluation criteria, this is the same criteria that Teus has perfected over the last 25 years, really. That the big companies, and I'm talking AT&T and IBM and Xerox and British Telecom and Siemens and Fujitsu and Huawei and Samsung and Apple, everybody says these are fair evaluations. In fact, we even tested them at the Ocean Tomo auctions. This is a fun story. Jim Malachowski was kind of embarrassed at the first auction because he had done that patentratings.com software program and predicted that some of these patents would sell for a lot of money, and it was awarding all these patents a bunch of money, or some big awards, expecting them to sell for a lot of money the next day. Well, in fact, at the auction the next day, many of those patents that got the award didn't even sell at any price, and so he's a little embarrassed. And I said, Jim, give me your list of patents that you're going to sell at the next auction. So we put together something that looks like going to a horse racing track, like a tip sheet. And we put the patent number down in the first column. We put our rating down in the second column. In the third column, we left blank, so people could just list the prices in there. And sure enough, the Wall Street Journal guy was at that auction. It was a New York auction, so the Wall Street Journal guy was convenient. And he complimented us on this because our TeusWorks scores tracked the prices that were paid at the auction very, very well. And in fact, he called us the Moody's of intellectual property. And we asked if we could quote him on that, and he agreed. So, yeah, TeusWorks is the Moody's of intellectual property. We used to charge for this. We're giving it away. We decided to just give the criteria away. Use it. Use these evaluation criteria yourself. And if you think that your patent evaluates strongly using these TeusWorks evaluation criteria, then document what your self-evaluation is and then send it in to us. We will have your self-evaluation validated by an independent third party. And if there's agreement, then your patents are up in tier 1 or tier 2. And the nice thing about this is, guys, for the early adopters, we filled tier 1 up first. Okay? We filled from the top down. And if you're an early adopter and get your patents in there real quickly, then guess what? You'll be in tier 1 for the whole first year after transactions start. And that's a good deal because we need to get this thing going. You'll also get a chance to sit on an advisory board, and you'll get plenty of bragging rights as bringing one of the brave people who are taking the leadership role in a new way of doing patent licensing. Anyhow, that's where we're at. I will tell you this, that we have had tremendous inquiries from big companies who would like to see patent books in specific areas. We've had requests for wireless patent books, and people that are interested in those are like guys at Parker Wireless and Qualcomm and Samsung and Apple and Google, just to name a few. We've had significant interest in patent books in Internet of Things from Microsoft and Intel and a whole bunch of other big companies. We've had specific interest in cloud computing patent books from Google. And they're interested in this because they are seeking freedom to operate. In fact, we got a nice compliment from Scott Frank over at AT&T. He said, if anybody can do this in this entire industry, it's you guys. And he's referring to us here at Teus and Patent Books. We've got significant investor interest now because they see that this works. There's no downside in here to anybody in this model. No downside whatsoever across the entire industry because the license negotiators here have the ability to provide their inputs on the patent evaluation criteria. Reverse engineering firms like Teus provide their input on the patent evaluations in the technical sections of the TeusWorks things. The economic damages people provide their inputs on the patent evaluation in the economic sections of these things. And when you're talking about patent books, for instance, on online restaurant ordering was requested because to neutralize a so-called patent troll called Amaranth in Southern California. Amaranth is suing all the big restaurants like Domino's and California Pizza Kitchen and all those guys. He's suing all those people for patent infringement, and he's got good patents. In fact, if you shoot me a note, I'll show you his patent evaluations. It's actually up there on the PatentBooks Inc. website. We evaluated his patents. It's a tier 1 patent. And, his attorneys will say, no, don't publish to a patent book. But the fact is, we have lived far too long in this era of secrecy and I would say untruth and lies. where when we go to court, we say, okay, yeah, my patent is great. That it's the sole patents. This group of patents here are the sole driver of economic value in this product, because in fact that turns a blind eye to the tens of thousands of other patents in there. They just assume that they're all worth less. I'm saying no, they're not worth less. They have significant value. And when you take a look at these 6 patents, the Amaranth patents, in the context of the 10,000 patents that might be used, 10,000 US patents, mind you, that might be used in the online restaurant, in an online restaurant transaction. I'm talking literally 10,000 patents that might be used from the time you fire up your iPhone and you fire up the Domino's Pizza app and you order up a pizza to the point where it shows up at your door. Potentially 10,000 patents in there. And while Amaranth thinks they deserve the 25 cents per transaction, they've scared people into thinking that those might be worth that much. But the reality is, not in the context of 10,000 other ones. And so, but I have talked to the restaurant industry, and the restaurant industry is more than happy to be talking about, a 4 to 5% of all online restaurant orders for licensing 10,000 patents. You know what? You do that, there are millions and millions and millions of dollars going out to the patent owners without having to go to court at all. Anyhow, it's time to do something. Contact us. Go to patentbooksinc.com and sign up. And let us know what patents you have. Tell your friends. This is a time where we can drive and define our own destiny, and it's time we do that. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can certainly post them up to me. I can unmute you if you like. Put up your hand. Put up your hand if you'd like to. On these things here. If you'd like to ask a question. If not, then we'll let you go. Thank you for your attendance here. See ya.